Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 million by 1 million strategy roundtable for entrepreneurs. 1M by 1M, as you know, is the first and only global virtual accelerator for tech startups in the world. I run it from Silicon Valley, but our team is spread out all over the world, and the entrepreneurs are all over the world. So at any given session here, you would meet entrepreneurs from anywhere in the world, who knows where. In support of our mission, we've been doing free mentoring roundtables since 2008. It started as an experiment, and then the experiment was successful. We launched 1 million by 1 million in its full capacity back in 2010. And of course, we've added some things to it, but the basic structure remains the same. And at the heart of it are roundtables for mentoring. And this roundtable format, where we do free roundtables once a week, has been going for a really long time, 664th roundtable today. We're going to start today's meeting with a conversation with Mo Islam from Threshold Ventures. Welcome, Mo. I don't think you've been here before. I believe Heidi connected us, yes?
Yeah, that's right. I think my partner Heidi knows you. She's been with the firm a long time, worked closely with her, and she runs our. I'll make a quick pitch for her startup podcast, which everybody should go listen to because it's fantastic.
So Mo, give us a little bit of an overview on, your path to venture capital and set some context about Threshold Ventures. Of course, Heidi has been here, but then I want to focus most of our discussion today on your firm's AI investment strategy.
Sure. So happy to give you some of the context. So and thanks for having me. I really appreciate you guys putting this together, especially for all the founders. A really cool mission in terms of being able to democratize access to this type of information. So I like you said, I'm a partner at Threshold Ventures. I've been with the team since sort of the inception of the firm. And was involved with the predecessor as well, DFJ, where I started my venture career. And so worked there for a number of years. I tend to focus on our AI infrastructure, frontier tech investments. And then before becoming a VC, I was actually an engineer and technical staff member. So worked at In-Q-Tel, which if you can believe it or not, the CIA had a strategic investment arm that was involved with funding startups so that the intelligence community and defense in the US, the defense industry, could get access to the latest and greatest technology. So I was there as a technical staff member for a number of years, and then started my career as an engineer, electrical by training. So came from more of a technical background before joining VC, and so I tend to gravitate towards companies that I think are building, unique technology, have novel IP, and then, a lot of what we help with is, helping take that to market and build a real business around it. So, I've backed everything from like drug discovery companies to, AI-enabled applications to hardware companies even that are building down to the chip level. So it's been pretty broad in terms of areas of focus, but what I would say is we tend to be very early stage investors. So seed, Series A, Series B is generally where we play. So like to be involved with companies pretty soon after they've kind of built their initial product, and like I said, we kind of help think through how to take that to market, help scale it up into a real business. So it's been exciting. The firm has backed a number of fantastic companies over the years. In the DFJ days, it was SpaceX, Tesla, Box. With Threshold, companies like BetterUp, LaunchDarkly, Twilio, Livongo. So have invested across a number of different sectors and multi-billion-dollar companies, which has been really exciting. And we're in the age of AI now, so like we're in this new super cycle, which is really, really exciting.
So
I'm very.
Let's start.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Let's start with how you are thinking about AI. Just give me a kind of like what is your mind map of how you are processing the age of AI, and where are the opportunities that you are particularly interested in?
Sure. Yeah. And, I would say, we think about AI as, sort of this new enabling technology, right? We've actually been investing in AI for quite some time, or, you can think of deep learning sort of emerging back in 2012, right? And so there, everybody's very excited about generative AI, today, but there are analytical forms of AI that had created pretty phenomenal companies, even over the last, 10, 12 years where we've already started to see real market value from. And so we have everything from like medical imaging diagnostics to drug discovery, that were formed with those companies. So the thing that's exciting to us now though is like AI is presenting this new kind of platform shift, right? We like past platform shifts like mobile and the internet were pretty phenomenal in terms of like value creation, right? In terms of the types of businesses that were built on top of those platforms. We think AI is one of those new platform shifts now, especially with respect to generative AI, which we've seen over the last like several years. So, our mind map is, hey, we're in this like new platform, which you can build phenomenal businesses around, and so let's go find those, right? So I mean, we already have some of the early massive companies that are the LLM providers here that application level companies can be built on. So, obviously OpenAI, Anthropic, we're seeing a lot in open source as well. So at a high level, there's a number of big platforms now that have emerged within this overall AI platform shift, and where we're spending a lot of time now is at the application layer. So looking at companies that are built on top of those LLMs to provide real business value.
So let's double click down on drug discovery. It's something that I've been spending time on as well. What have you invested in, and how are you thinking about drug discovery, AI-enabled drug discovery? What are the criteria of what you want to invest in, and what have you invested in?
So we have a couple companies in our portfolio. Atomwise, which is working on, was one of the earlier companies that were leveraging deep learning for, sort of matching small molecules to their various targets. So it has a deep learning based approach to basically drug discovery. And so that was an early company we invested in. Verge Genomics is another one that's focused on neurodegenerative diseases. And that's both of these companies are AI platforms, and so not focused on anyone. When you look at a lot of drug discovery companies, usually they have like a single asset, single small molecule, or perhaps biologic that the company is really kind of betting on. Where we tend to look has been more AI-enabled platform companies that could have multiple assets that they could potentially take to market. Because as the probabilities that you sort of get to an actual drug with any one of these predicted assets is very, very low, right? The probability of failure is high with any one asset, and so having this kind of AI platform that can help you predict, basically to take multiple shots on goal is pretty phenomenal. So that's been.
Let me ask you a question on that one. So Atomwise is a go-to-market strategy as a platform, as a service on which other people are going to do drug discovery, or is this company doing drug discovery itself?
So they're essentially partnering with a number of different biotechs and pharma companies where they would provide that drug discovery engine, and then those companies would take that.
Biology is being provided by the farmers and the biotechs.
Yeah, I mean those folks would kind of take that technology platform and then advance like assets. Like let's say you have a small molecule that is showing good early signs of having efficacy. They would then be able to take that and then start to move into things like animal models, and then eventually like other in vivo studies into humans. So they would kind of take that forward. Verge actually is doing a lot of that themselves. So they're keeping, at least for a couple of their programs, they are keeping it in-house, and they are kind of taking that program all the way through. So different go-to-market strategies for different companies in our portfolio. But I would say largely have, the thesis has been around backing these AI platforms especially in areas where there's like unmet needs. Atomwise has a number of different programs now that they're working on. Verge and neurodegenerative, like Alzheimer's, ALS, very, very tough area, and a lot of unmet need. And so that they've got kind of a unique approach using human data that we thought was interesting, hence why we backed them. So I would say platforms within drug discovery have been a big part of the thesis, but different go-to-market strategies can actually work in terms of getting those drugs to market. But ultimately, it's about, I mean, that's the long-term goal, right? Can you discover something within the platform and either partner with a biotech or pharma, or if you're going to take the risk yourself, raise enough capital to be able to do that with a particular program and take it to market. But it's a 10 to 15 year journey, so it is a long.
I was about to ask you, where in the cycle of drug discovery are, let's say you take Atomwise, the customers of Atomwise using that platform, how far along are they? Is anything, getting close to getting through some, maybe stage 1 clinical trial, or where are we in this evolution?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you for Verge, they're in phase 1 now with one of their programs, so they've actually made it quite far. With Atomwise, it's somewhat dependent on some of their partners and how far they've taken it. So that's kind of still in process. I would say largely preclinical for where they are today, but we see kind of promise in terms of where they can go. So it is a long process. Like drug discovery is like this marathon sort of process, and so it can take quite a while. But that's what we would be looking for in terms of some of these companies eventually getting to market. The nice thing with drug discovery though is that you can get upfront payments like along the way. So that's been used to like capitalize some of these businesses. Like oftentimes the model will be upfront payments, then milestone-based payments, and then eventually royalties that come with actually getting the drug. But even way before that, there's ways to capitalize the business, just making progress on in the overall process.
And who is paying those upfront payments? The pharmaceutical companies to Atomwise? Is that what you're talking about, or are you talking
Correct. Yeah, exactly. It's the pharma companies and the biotechs that they're working with would because pharma has been outsourcing R&D to smaller biotech companies
for a long time.
For a long time, right? So for them,
it's technology. They're buying technology. Obviously, they have to pay upfront. They don't have to wait for the drug to be successful for that to be
exactly.
Payment worthy.
Exactly. So that is why they're willing to do it, right? Because if someone has a more novel approach that could get that process could make it faster, right? Like the kind of marathon process, that's worth risking millions, tens of millions of dollars, because the prize at the end could be worth billions.
But in the case of the Verge model, or let's say you have a startup that works on the Atomwise platform, is trying to do their own drug. Mm-hmm. That's more on that 10-year, 15-year time scale, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I would say for even for these AI platform companies like Atomwise and Verge, ultimately the goal is to get a drug in market that's been discovered from their platform, right? And so like ultimately that's what like long-term success looks like. Both those businesses are doing pretty well just based on the progress that they've already made, but long-term it's about getting a drug to market.
Could you talk a little bit about the financing journey of a company that has a 10 to 15-year life cycle? And the reason, let me set this in context. Mm-hmm. The world that we have lived in for the last, let's say 30 years, a little bit more than 30 years perhaps, is that VCs want to go from 0 to $100 million in 5 to 7 years. That is the unicorn trajectory, so to speak. But now if we're looking at 10 to 15-year timelines, how do we address that from a venture structure point of view, limited partner expectations point of view, and so forth? Are we now talking about splitting it up, like in biotech, for instance? Mm-hmm. Companies get acquired after stage 1 clinical trials. Companies get acquired after stage 2 clinical trials. They don't necessarily stay within the same frame, same corporate structure for the entire journey. right? As you said, large pharma companies constantly outsource R&D to small companies and then acquire, bring them in and do the maybe phase 2, phase 3 within the large company structure. Is that what we are looking to see in the cycle of the AI-enabled drug discovery companies like Verge?
Potentially. I mean, I would say with some of these companies, like like you said, like once you're in clinic, there's paths to, potentially public markets, right? Or you could kind of spin off an individual asset into its own company and take that public, which we have seen kind of folks do. More broadly within venture, I would say, I think there has been a realization that, the 5 to 7 year path to liquidity is probably gone because we don't see that anymore. We do see more like a 10-year plus
Not
sort
5
of.
to 7 years to liquidity so much, it's 5 to 7 years to 100 million in revenue and that, fast clip growth so that you have enough valuation to do the rest of, even if you're doing the rest of the journey, people can come in at later stages, but you have.
Oh yeah. But I would say, in some cases we're actually seeing the 100 million revenue be less than 5 to 7 years, just because it's been, especially with an AI, some of these companies, the growth has been explosive. But with respect to like a venture fund, right? They're typically like 10-year funds, and LPs have a sort of expectation of liquidity within that, that kind of timeline. That has been that's what's changed quite a bit. Like that, because even 100 million of ARR, that used to be the barometer where you could think about going public. That's gone. Now the bar is much higher. Hence why we're not seeing a lot of companies go after public markets.
Yeah, one of the things we are seeing though is the earlier stage companies exiting into later rounds of financing. That's one of the ways people are bridging that longer cycle. But I think the desire to have that fast growth, high velocity growth has remained.
Oh
but
yeah. Yeah, I
it
mean,
doesn't necessarily apply exactly the way it applies in software to drug discovery. I think your Atomwise business it follows the cycle of a software business, so that can get that to that kind of velocity in that kind of time frame. Verge, I think, is on a different model.
It is, yeah. I would say that, there's both of them have actually a mix of tech and biotech investors, which I think has been sort of helpful to kind of guide some of the direction that they could go in terms of, capital, future kind of capital financings. For Atomwise, it is very dependent on like, where their partners will take these assets, because it is more of like a tech platform play, where Verge is more of a actual, actual biotech, like an AI-enabled biotech, and they have a path to, potentially public markets, depending on how their asset performs in the clinic. And so, slightly different in terms of those two companies, but I would say broadly within drug discovery, once you do have something in clinic, that does open up the opportunity to look at public markets, because there are public market biotech investors who know how to value those assets. Like it may be a pre-revenue company still, but you have like very positive clinical data which can be used, to kind of underwrite that company in a public market setting. For software and other sort of areas, I would say yes, that's more of the traditional, like, need to get to what used to be like I said, 100 million of ARR, now more like 200 or 250 before you're considering going public, and that bar has gone up and made it a lot harder in those sectors. But we're also, I would say, we just had our annual meeting with our LPs not too long ago, and there's some optimism, over the next 4 years where things may start to open up, just based on more friendliness. Yeah, to the business community. Sorry, go ahead.
What is the situation vis-a-vis startup biotech companies that want to use a platform like Atomwise? Is Atomwise seeing startup biotech companies built on their platform?
I don't think it's been as much startups per se. I mean, there are some other companies that, want startups to kind of build on top of them, but I think their approach has been more going after
The large pharma.
more, yeah, exact pharma, and then like more mature biotechs, if you will. We have seen some companies in the past that have catered more to startups or a variety of different things, not just drug discovery, but also like, fermentation, sort of as people who are kind of growing microbes and things like that for various use cases. So we've seen a lot of those over the years, but haven't necessarily seen that kind of scale up quite yet. But not to say that opportunity can't be there.
Is
So
Verge
that
built on Atomwise?
sorry, say again.
Is Verge built on Atomwise?
No, totally separate platforms. Just because kind of Verge was like very vertically integrated. That was something we were excited about that they were doing, and had novel access to data, like human data, especially. And so that was a big part of our bet, because when we think about like vertical applications of AI, where we've actually been spending a lot of time, one of the things that we look for outside of just a model that the company may have is the data that's used to train that model, right? And in healthcare and drug discovery, life sciences, access to novel data can make a big difference, right? Because it's a little bit different from scraping the entire internet to get all the text, video, audio data that's out there. Usually, when you think about things like whether it's imagery or genomic data or drug discovery data, that's not usually publicly available, at least not to large degrees. And so like actually having novel access to data has been a big differentiator for some of these companies, both on the drug discovery side, but also like medical imaging diagnostics, like our companies Imagen and Viz AI all started with like novel sort of data sets that they had gotten access to. So that's made a big difference in terms of long-term defensibility.
So I'm going to ask you more about medical imaging in just a moment, but I want to provide a little bit of a synthesis for people who are listening. If you are thinking about working in AI-enabled drug discovery as a startup, and your primary unfair advantage, as we call it, is on the biology side. You understand biology, you are coming in from coming into startups from the world of biology or medicine, or where there is unique data, where there is unique knowledge of a process, a drug discovery process, or you're coming from inside of pharmaceutical companies and you have some new idea. You kind of have to find a platform to work on. It is very, very difficult and expensive to build the entire platform yourself. So I think this discussion of the contrast between the strategy of Verge and the strategy of the platform company, Atomwise, are interesting in that context. Is that if you're not coming from the technology software kind of background, and you're trying to build more a drug discovery company based on your knowledge of biology, you do need to access software somehow, and these kinds of softwares are very, very expensive to build. So platform as a service is going to emerge as an interesting model, and it's something that you need to keep an eye on and look for a platform on which you can apply your biology knowledge. Do you want to comment on what I just said, Mo?
No, I think that's very, very fair, and I would say we've actually, I mean, there's been a number of new companies that have emerged, because we've largely not gone after, at least for our particular fund, because we're an early stage focused fund. We haven't chased the big LLM companies like OpenAI and Anthropic and Cohere, but where we actually have found like interesting opportunities at the foundation model layer has been companies that are building vertical specific foundation model layers, and so there are some new ones that are emerging working on drug discovery. Like there's Chai Discovery, which you might know about as well. That's like finding, predicting and reprogramming the interactions between like different biochemical molecules. And so there's some of these new ones that are emerging. Even like I'd say Atomwise, was, from the last like 5 to 10 years. There's some new ones that are emerging now that we're not investors in yet, but we're actively looking at that could actually be interesting, perhaps more for startups to build upon, like you were saying, that could actually give you a pretty significant leg up. And then, there's been pretty phenomenal, like even if you see what the bigger companies have shared publicly, like Google DeepMind with AlphaFold is pretty, if you're working in like protein design, for example, right? It's actually pretty phenomenal what open source tools are available now for free. Like Demis was at TED a couple of years ago, I think, when I was there, and was, he made the claim that almost like every biologist in the world that was working in an applicable area is using AlphaFold, which is pretty amazing. So I think there's actually more. I think the great thing for entrepreneurs and people like building in this area now is the tool set that's available so much better than it was like 10 years ago, and so I think gives entrepreneurs a big leg up.
And so let's as the final discussion. We're getting to the close of the time that we've.
Oh yeah.
Is medical imaging. What have you been up to on that, and what are you learning? What insights can we convey here?
Yeah, I mean, we backed a number of companies here. Imagen as one that's working on medical imaging diagnostics. Have multiple FDA approved devices now. Viz is another that was working on AI powered like stroke detection and kind of in the clinical workflow. So I would say with those companies, the point I was making earlier around getting access to novel data sets in the very these companies are more mature now, but like in the very early days, because I imagine the entrepreneurs you're speaking to are fairly early in their journey. Getting access to novel data, like Imagen, it was the hospital for special surgery in New York. That's where they kind of spun out of and got access to a novel data set to help build their initial models, which then they, kind of were able to get FDA approval on. So these are like class 2 medical devices. That was pretty important in their journey. And so I would say for people working in medical imaging diagnostics, the models now are pretty amazing in terms of what's available publicly. Like, you can go to Hugging Face and download some pretty, good general purpose models, perhaps even imagery focused, but not fine-tuned yet to medical imagery. And then if you have access to this data, you can actually build something that's pretty novel, whether it's, detecting, cancer in X-rays or MRIs, to stroke detection like Viz is doing. So I think there's a lot on the model side that's now just like open source and very, very powerful. But getting access to proprietary data, I think, is the big differentiator.
So, but this kind of companies has to go through FDA approval, right?
It depends on what you're doing. In these cases, they have, because it's clinical decision support. So they are, actively providing a radiologist or physician, information around making a diagnosis. And so then it becomes critical to get FDA approval before you can actually start selling the product. But there are other companies that may be doing, different things where you don't necessarily need FDA approval, maybe more in a R&D sort of setting. And we've seen companies go down that path. But for these companies, and where we think there is actually quite a bit of value long term and defensibility, is if you can go down that path to becoming an FDA approved device.
What is the timeline of the FDA approval?
It depends on how mature of a team and how well they know the process. But for 510(k), usually it can be like kind of 6 to 9 months, like from an initial submission. But usually there's some back and forth in that process. So it just sort of depends, what your device is, if they're predicate devices that exist already, or it's de novo. But it largely kind of depends on, kind of what exactly you're doing and how well the team is knowledgeable about like that sort of process. Like a lot of our companies have used FDA sort of advisors to kind of help them through that process, and it's been successful for them.
So there is more knowledge of how to go through that process developing in the venture capital ecosystem now. The biotech world has always known how to do this, but this is coming out of the software investment world, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, I would say, a lot of us invest in healthcare companies, which, technically these are both like software companies in the sense that, largely the product they're building is software, but it's regulated like a medical device. So you got to have that expertise, or at least have the network that can give you that expertise. And so that's something we've built up over time. And then also have other co-investors and partners that help the company with that. So it's in a lot of these companies, it's been helpful to have a mix of sort of dedicated healthcare and tech investors that could, I would encourage any founder, it's definitely in life sciences, but I would say also in other areas of healthcare, having a mix of different investors that can bring different expertise and networks to the table.
Well, it's been fascinating, and we should continue the conversation in the future. It was a pleasure
For
meeting
sure.
you. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was really fun. Thanks for putting this all together. I appreciate it.
Pleasure. Folks, we're going to switch to the entrepreneur pitch session. This is a safe working session. You don't need to be scared. You don't need to be nervous. You don't need to be defensive. We are completely on your side. You can disagree with my feedback. Doesn't matter. It's your venture. It's your prerogative to disagree with me. But I will give you what I see, and you can do what you want with that. Divine Sebukpor, Chandigarh, India. Divine, please unmute your line. And if you want to turn on your video, you can. You don't have to. But let's get started.
Greetings to you all. Is my voice audible enough?
Yes, but it's very low. Your audio is rather low.
Is it okay now?
Yes.
It's okay now.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you for welcoming me. I'm Divine Sebukpor from Ghana, but currently in India, Chandigarh. So I'm the founder of DasMedUp. DasMedUp is a health tech startup where we focus on revolutionizing the healthcare by democratizing health and then bridging the gap between the underserved communities and then the served communities. So without much ado, I'll go into the problem that DasMedUp solves and then the solutions we provide as a whole. Kindly move to the next slide. So looking at the geographical structure, in Africa and Asia, we realize the difficulties in able to access timely healthcare. So there is long waiting time as a result of inadequate health specialists and then inadequate tools to be able to help these patients who need this care. As such, DasMedUp can create this marketplace model by providing the tools to the health specialists, which is going to aid them in helping the patients. So we bring together a marketplace model. We have a symptom triad, which is able to streamline the process by cutting down the waiting times. So the symptom triads actually provide pre-diagnosis based on patient symptoms. And then this pre-diagnosis and then the demographic of the patient is being sent to the health specialist or the health sector of which the patient wish to attend. So we cut down the waiting time by cutting down the long consultation by streamlining this process of patient symptoms collection and then diagnosis. So we provide this pre-diagnosis, and then we provide the tools for the health specialist to be able to cater for the patients. So we are also reading the medical imagery. So we provide tools like malaria classification models. We provide tuberculosis and pneumonia. And then we provide for some types of cancer for now.
So, Divine, let me ask you a question here.
Okay.
Are you talking about pre-diagnosis or are you talking about actual diagnosis?
So what our symptom triad model does is it does a pre-diagnosis.
Because if you talk about cancer, pre-diagnosis is incredibly difficult, right? Cancer, the cancers that are diagnosable and go through certain processes like breast cancer, colon cancer. These have processes, these have diagnostic processes that are built into certain, Western world's healthcare systems. It doesn't exist in India, for instance. There is no preventive care really in the culture. So people don't do regular mammograms, people don't do regular colonoscopies, so nothing gets really diagnosed until things get late and symptoms start to kick in gear. But these things are not really diagnosable without those procedures, mammograms and colonoscopies and so on. So how exactly can you do? There's nothing to do here in terms of a pre-diagnosis mode.
So with our symptom trial, which is the first stage, we do not pre-diagnose medical imagery like cancer. With the pre-diagnosis is about the patient's symptoms, maybe having headache, having some stomach aches, and then our symptom assessment is an avatar, which is going to query these patients, take the basic details.
What you're saying is if people come to you with symptoms, you can run those symptoms through a battery of, through a knowledge base and do some kind of software-based diagnosis and give them a sense of what are the possibilities. That's what you want to do.
Exactly. It gives recommendations after analyzing the symptoms. It gives recommendations. Either you would have to see a health specialist, you would have to see a hospital, or you'd have to get the over-counter medication. So these are the three recommendations our symptom trial gives.
Okay. And keep going.
So, with our market opportunity, we have an overall market of over 634 billion within the health tech space. And then with our serviceable market, we are looking at a total of over 9.3 billion. And having over 1% of the total achievable market, we are looking at a total of over 93 million within the Indian health sector space. Kindly move to the next slide.
So where are you trying to build this business?
We are currently starting in India, but it's going to move from the subsequent years to Africa. So it's basically for Africa, but we are starting from India as our immediate market.
But you're not going to be marketing to India, you're going to be marketing to Africa.
For now, we'll be marketing in India. Our first year will be in India, then from India we'll move to Africa.
So this slide you just presented is not a very useful slide. This is not how you do TAM analysis. TAM analysis is done as a bottom-up TAM analysis. So you need to learn to do bottom-up TAM analysis. This doesn't tell me anything.
Okay.
All right,
So with our market strategy, we do on the B2B, B2C. That is, we connect health specialists, we connect hospitals, and then we connect them to their customers, which are our customers as well. So what we do is, like I said earlier, we have our symptom triage, which is able to cut down the waiting times by going through the triage system of diagnosing, providing a pre-diagnose, which is later on sent to the health specialist or the doctor, and by cutting down time of querying patients. So we cut that time on down. So we provide this B2B, B2C, and then we work on a premium-based model. That is for the symptom triage. You would have some time for free, but you would have to pay to be able to use for advanced. And then with our proprietary models for medical imaging, we also provide proprietary models which you can use for free, and then for advanced diagnostics, you will have to pay. And then we also have our commission base, since we bring together this market-based model where health specialists and then hospitals as well as patients can coexist together. We take commission rate based on consultation. So when a patient is able to have a deal with a health specialist, then we take a commission rate on their consultation. So we also have this.
Let me see if I understood this. You're trying to sell to hospitals and clinics who are going to be offering this to their customer base. Is that correct?
Exactly.
So from a clinic point of view, what is your business model?
From the clinic point of view, our business model is a B2B. So we work on the B2B space. So we connect patients.
Do you have a
health
subscription
specialists.
business model and pricing model?
And we have our pricing model.
Okay. You have 50,000 paying customers right now?
Now, this is our projections. These are projections.
What is the stage of the product? You have a product out already?
Yeah, we have a product out. We are looking at enrolling our pilots in service by the end of this month.
Who's building the product?
So we are a team of four.
Background? Do you have knowledge of how to do this?
Yeah, I'm an AI engineer.
Or where is the biology knowledge coming from? Where's the medical knowledge coming from?
We have a team of medical students. I also have some background of biology as well.
Because if you want hospitals and clinics to rely on your system, to have confidence on your system that you can do what you're saying you can do, the system needs to be fairly robust. And you need to make sure that you can convince your clinic or hospital customers that what you're offering has legitimacy. So you better have a strategy to make sure that this is mission critical stuff, right? If you want hospitals to put this out there for their customers to use, it's kind of mission critical. You can't really have, nonsense coming out of the system. It has to be fairly robust.
Exactly. So what we do is it kind of depends on the patients. So not only are we bringing health specialists or providing tools for health specialists or hospitals, we are also helping the patient. So based on the diagnosis which is done by our symptom assessment model, it depends on the patient. Either he or she will have to see a health specialist or go to a hospital or get the over-counter medication. So
I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think you should try to do this as a B2C business. I like the fact that you are thinking about doing it as a B2B2C business where you are going to hospitals and clinics and having them buy your product and distribute to their customers, because then you can ride on their credibility to access the consumers, to create trust in this business on a random company that is not attached to any hospital is going to be very difficult. But in that process, you still need to win the trust of the hospitals. And I think that is, I haven't heard a strategy for that yet. How is your product going to be built such that it will have, confidence of the hospitals, your hospital customers? It will have the confidence of those hospitals to want to pay for something like this and offer it to their customers, patients. I haven't heard a strategy. You need to think about what is the strategy for that. Let me look at the questions you have here. It is not a question of acquire and retain users in underserved markets. You should frame this business 100% as selling to hospitals who then take the product out to take the service out to their customers. You should not try to sell to consumers. And it's not a freemium product. You should be charging hospitals for this. You could charge it on a SaaS basis, with a number of users kind of pricing model. So you need to rethink the business model. You should rethink the pricing model, and you should rethink customer acquisition. This is going to be a B2B enterprise deal kind of business. Those are my early feedback. Investors, until you prove something is working, until this is validated and you have been able to show that you can build a product that hospitals are willing to buy, I don't think investors are going to look at it. So bootstrapping right now is your only option. Okay, so I think that's the feedback that I have for you. Let me work with Misty, and then if you guys have more questions, we will have time for more Q&A later in the program. Misty, please unmute your line.
Hi, thank you. I appreciate the platform. I appreciate Divine setting the stage, the big shoes to step into, and I appreciate you and this kind of scale mentoring. I am an economic strategist myself, a grant writer first and government procurement specialist. I bring solutions and stakeholders to the innovation table, and I use all my advantages, and I have a tendency to really want to share them. I became a 50-50 owner of a carbon capture company that we take wood waste, like in the hurricanes in Florida, and we make a carbon capture product. And of the 4 streams of revenues of that enterprise, I create carbon credits. And in the process of facilitating a service need and transaction platform for my own credits, CO2 Trust was created. I am a 51% owner of CO2 Trust, which is a climate action marketplace. Like a lot of companies who are generating on a large scale have to sit in compliance, so do companies like Nike and Adidas and other brands and other energy on different scales have to use a voluntary carbon market to be up on that wave of climate action and investment and the new marketing. You can change the, thank you. This is the team, myself and the owner with Ed Norris, who is the 49% co-owner. He was already on my team of 15, already working on grants. We were on a grant for FCC, delivering resources and platform to 13 million people. He was running all my systems. And when I couldn't sell my credit so easily, I called him from an event and said I needed a shopping cart. And he built this, went to his network and came from the world of blockchain, Adidas developers, and major brand sales. And so they built a very public focused so that anybody, my grandma, could go onto this platform, study and dive into the suppliers and be able to buy credit.
Misty, can I kind of reel you in a little bit, and can we talk about what business are you building? What is this? What is the marketplace doing? Who are the buyers and sellers of this marketplace?
So a supplier like my first company, my biochar production company, it generates credits that go on a marketplace, and there is a stream of buyers. My focus is in fashion. I have my first buyers are in fashion, clothing, and my other buyers that I focus on is the public. I believe if I can translate, if a marketplace can translate the investment power of the carbon marketplace, it's much beyond carbon, even a circular economy. So that marketplace has value.
Do you have a marketplace already running?
Yes, it actually goes public facing in January, and we self-funded it. It has no debt, nor did we dilute it.
So you have accumulated some amount of carbon credit that you can sell in this marketplace.
Ask that again, please.
You have accumulated some level of carbon credits that you are going to be offering on this market.
Yes, of my own credits, but also I went and got other suppliers.
So can you give me a little bit more specifics of who those suppliers are? And what kind of, not so much the names of the suppliers, but more what kind of
mostly biochar. Mostly biochar. That's my first foundation, biochar credits. And then I have them from both suppliers in the United States and abroad. And then our next credits are coming into circular economy credits, the credits of recycling, and other credits that are developing, which are like a materials recycling and offset credit. So we're able to transact every credit.
On the seller side, what have you lined up for the launch? I'm sorry, on the buyer side, what have you lined up for the launch?
So our first buyer is actually, I direct two nonprofits, one that just came off of this $500,000 grant with FCC, and it got paid to travel around and deliver resources, and it had a 70-ton footprint. And so I utilized the nonprofit to set that example so that I could translate that back to government agency. That's my first buyer. My second buyer is a hemp clothing manufacturer out of Central Oregon, a hemp clothing manufacturer. Because I spent a lot of time during Climate Week in New York meeting with all the fashion industry. And I believe this platform is going to give them a way to step in and not hold them to judgment, but give them a platform to tell the story. And even beyond that, the buyer of the hemp clothing manufacturer in our investigative reportive look that we present them as a platform, and in that we found that she was utilizing her remnants and reselling them, putting them back out. And so on the marketplace, we are giving her an opportunity to put those remnants back out, and her market can actually buy them and contribute to offsetting her footprint.
And what
So
is
we're driving the public back.
how does your business model work? How are you getting paid as the company?
So we have a 22% transaction fee, 17% on the supplier of the credits, which is far beyond, it's less than half of what they would usually do for a broker. And then the other 5% is on the buyer. The public we felt that it was a structure that even the public could relate to and be able to feel.
So 22% you're getting paid in carbon credits?
No, we get paid in the cash transaction. We're unlike all the other competitors. They mostly work on Bitcoin, and we have a partner in Plaid that allows us. We're fully able to do cash transactions, and so there we receive funding that way. And with my net company, who has 25 locations in 5 years, that is contracted. I originally was going to make net own part of the marketplace, but eventually, in the end, I didn't. But I made the long-term contract that net, the company, gave half of its credits, which for each location, which is 22,040 credits minimum for each location, and it's contracted in perpetuity to the marketplace.
Okay. So what brings you here? What can we answer for you?
I loved what you were freaking doing. I'm going to make a freaking pound on the ground with this. And I'm going to launch in Portland. I've got support of Portland State really wants to be this tech hub and wants to set the example for the other states on how to mobilize a marketplace on the ground in their state, because most of them are hard to get into. They're not user friendly. And I loved what you were doing, and so I honor your opinion. The very fact of your opinion back to me was just fine. I appreciated that, and I wanted you to know I was out here.
Okay. All right. So here's one. So are you plan to self-fund this company? What's your
Do I plan to what? Sell part? You know what I'm looking for is a spot on CFO, and I would share part of the company with the CFO. That's the next thing I'm looking at. I'm savvy in finance, but
how is the company's operations going to be financed?
well, it's going under contract, and now I'm in talks with Comcast as they're going to make a purchase. Some of these companies are going to make some pre-purchases, which will give me some foundation, but ultimately I'm taking it back to the same 13 million to invoke the public. I intend to put 33 million subscribers on it by 2030. And I believe I've done it already with for FCC. So if I could do that same strategy 3 times over, then I can build that marketplace and wake up the public.
Okay, so you have a strategy. Good.
Yeah, and I would say, I just also I think the most more powerful part of it is I self-published a book this last month that covered how I was a navigator, task force creator, facilitator, and how that led me through enterprise to a marketplace and back to the public. And I believe there's this opportunity to create a new workforce of navigators that have that knowledge of civics again and are savvy and empowered to go back and really dive into entrepreneurship or the
All right.
support of those.
Thank you, Misty.
Yeah,
Let's
thank you.
switch gears. Folks, I know there are people in the room who are trying to ask questions. And yes, absolutely, you want to ask questions, you're very welcome to. You can do that two ways. You can ask questions in the public chat, but you can also talk. So if you just identify yourselves on who wants to talk, Maureen will put you on the panel and you can just talk to me from your computer audio. So while you're going through all that, organization with Maureen, I will give you, those of you who are interested, let me give you an overview of how to use 1 million by 1 million for your own acceleration needs. Everything we offer is at 1Mby1M.com. Our full acceleration program is 1Mby1M Premium, where you get strategy consulting in the mode like this. It's basically roundtable based consulting. If you're looking to raise funding, yes, we do fundraising rounds here, and but there's a policy in terms of what is required. I can't just take you to investors until you're ready. So there's a process of getting you ready, and you have to factor that in if you're coming to 1 million by 1 million to raise money. The curriculum is very deeply anchored in case studies. Thousands of entrepreneurs have participated in the program. Thousands of investors have participated in the program. And we have created a curriculum that is very pragmatic and completely case study based. So you learn a lot from the curriculum. And also, at least on LinkedIn, I'm a big influencer, and we give you that advantage if you are part of the program. We also have 1M Basic, which is a curriculum only program, and many of you who are just trying to learn the methodology and learn how to put one foot before the other can also start with 1M Basic. That's fine. So figure out, go to the website, figure out what works for you, basic, premium. Some of you have come to us with a lot of fear and worry about privacy and, stealth and so on, and have asked for one-on-one time. And if you want that is available. It's more expensive, but it's available. So there's a page on the website called One-on-One Consulting. This is the screenshot of that. You can go there and sign up for that as well. Again, more expensive, but it's available. 2 more roundtables this year, and then we're done for this year. It's been a very interesting year, obviously, on many different dimensions. And we have 2 more opportunities for you to come and pitch, and we'll be happy to discuss with you what you're doing and how we can help. If you have questions about the 1M program, Irina Patterson is your contact. Let's see. Amrita, you want to ask questions?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm learning a lot here, Shramana. So I am probably at -1 to 0 stage, thinking about a problem that I have gone through myself, and since then have talked to about, more than 24 such people who have gone through this problem.
Is this B2B or B2C?
I don't know. I can talk about the problem at a human level.
Okay.
And then I am going very slow, starting from research. So let me speak about it. So I'm thinking of parents who go through genetic testing that is mandatory when they get pregnant, right?
Yeah.
So parents who go through positive genetic testing at any stage of your pregnancy. It can be genetic testing, it can be ultrasound, any form of testing that happens during pregnancy if you are positive. And that relates to fetal and birth defects.
Yep.
And I have gone through it myself. It's been 12 years now. That's why I can speak about it. Ended with a termination in third trimester. And since then, I've talked to parents in multiple medium who have gone through, but either led to termination or had children with,
Disability.
lifelong, birth defects. And that adds, when I've done the research in two fronts, what does it add? It adds to a huge cost as an economic burden. There are articles from NIH and CDC, and the percentage is like 5% of all pregnancies have birth defect related issues, but 50% of defects are not diagnosed during pregnancy. So another front of research I'm doing is with research institutes. So UCLA and University of Pittsburgh. I have started to do research with OBGYN and genetics professor, as well as genetic counselors. Because the model I am thinking, to answer your question, is a B2B2C. So how can I develop, very similar to the conversation you were having with Divine, how can I develop the trust that this platform brings for the hospitals is, in my opinion, only through the research institutes that are very well known, OBGYN or genetic counselors. And then this app can be, they can refer, if OBGYNs can refer to the patients, the parents.
And what do you provide in the app? What part of
That's a very good question. So since I've been focusing more on the problem, it's literally -1 to 0 stage. But some hunch I have, which I faced long time back, is I didn't have any information. So for me, going back between tests for about 6 weeks, I lacked information. And when I talked to the parents, they said the same. So one is, how do I bring reliable information from this NIH, CDC, all the amazing research that's happening, vetted by physicians, straight to patients' hands? AI can help there. That's one. Second is, I don't want to do it right away, but at some point of time with, so the imaging from, say, ultrasound and stuff, so those results can be uploaded by patients and it can be compared with the research. It's kind of a starting point along with what the radiologists suggest. I don't want to go to any diagnosis stage because I know that I need FDA approval for that. The third thing is, which I also felt, had to wait for 6 weeks to talk to a genetic counselor, so shorten that. So how can the product also connect with the genetic counselors? So those are the three things I've been loosely thinking, haven't solidified. I'm very much in the problem understanding phase.
Okay. And what questions do you have at this point of your evolution?
Yeah, Shaman, I keep hearing that for VC funding, they want to see it needs to be some $1 billion business projection. This I
VC
don't.
funding is a $0 to $100 million in 5 to 7 years, as you heard earlier in the conversation with Mo Islam. That's the trajectory of a VC funded business, and you have to. There's a very well understood methodology of how to validate, how to do TAM analysis, how to position a company, all of these stuff. And if you remember when you came to the rendezvous, I told you 1Mby1M basic would be a good solution for you if you're thinking about entrepreneurship. I still maintain that, is that you need to learn how to put one foot before the other. And just doing curriculum intensely would get you through a lot of that learning. You're just going to be at a better decision-making place. Even as you are making these decisions, you will know a lot more on what that means.
Yeah, you're right, because I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, and that's why we created 1Mby1M basic. I mean, premium will also give you the access to the curriculum. Premium also gives you access to weekly mentoring through the program. So you could do premium also. It's up to you which one you want to join, but either one is fine. But I definitely recommend a lot of curriculum work to, get an understanding of, get your bearings about what is entrepreneurship, right? What does it mean to be a tech entrepreneur these days?
Mm-hmm. Okay, sounds good. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? I don't see any other hands up, so I will adjourn. As I said, 2 more left, 2 more roundtables left, and you're most welcome to register and come and talk to me at one of those. But otherwise, we are almost getting ready to close up the year. Good luck, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye.